Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's I can
Well,
tell
thank
we're
you
going to
for
have
having me.
I
Yeah.
can tell we're going to have fun. We've had fun already, haven't we?
Oh,
just trying to get in here.
Lots of hwyl, as we say. Hwyl esprit.
Yeah.
Lots of fun, yeah.
So we met very, very briefly when you were playing in the Kingsway. Was it at Christmas time you were in the Kingsway Centre? The Music Trail. Was that the day you were there?
Yeah, so that wasn't quite... Was that
That
last
was March,
summer
I think.
of last year, I think.
I think it was March this year.
Was it this year? No, it would have been last.
No, it's definitely this year.
Wait a minute. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, I'm a woman. I'm always right. You know that.
Of course you are. Yeah, well, we're not disagreeing with you because even if you were wrong, you're right. But yes, the music trail, and that was great in the Kingsway Centre here. And I suppose that there were talent scouts from the council out and about, and a message got to me that, he was good. Let's stick him in a open-air celebration or commemoration up at Ringland for the VE Day.
That's right.
And so that happened, but I also compared, because I've started over the last 3 or 4 years actually comparing events, but also singing at them. So you're getting kind of double bubble, really,
bubble,
as long as you're not singing too much.
That's value for money, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So they booked me for that, and then off the back of that, it was in the Glass Hall at Newport Market was VJ 80 Day.
Ah, okay.
So, lest we forget, that took place as well, because it's kind of like the forgotten bit of the
isn't it?
World
Yeah.
War II. And so you just never know who's going to be listening to you. And I thought it was a nice thing to take part of initially for the music trail, and then to do those two events. The first one was a Beacons lighting, and the Lord Lieutenant was there, and the Mayor, and so it was lighting these beacons. And but obviously in the indoor market, in the Glass Hall, there were no beacons. It was just so I chose repertoire that kind of suited that kind of theme, if you like.
Yeah.
Some stuff from South Pacific.
Lovely, yes.
The South Seas and Japan, and of course now I'm back there again.
So tell us about this latest offering.
Well, yeah, I was talking. I got wonderful staff there. There's Gareth Sainty, that's the manager there in charge of all the events and functions and so on, and it's kind of like, well, not that well hidden, but if you go into the market, you kind of don't, what's going on at the top there, and
it's huge, isn't it?
Wonderful space with this, the Glass Hall. It reminds me of something from Covent Garden.
Yes, it is like
next
that.
to the
yes.
Opera House, the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden, and it's so I had been there before. Just to give a little backstory, on the tail end of the pandemic, when there was no performing work at all. I had various jobs. I was working in Tesco's in Spitty. And just doling out
what we did, wasn't it?
sanitizing gel and kind of part of customer services. Then I worked at Asda in Dufferin, and that was being like a personal shopper. And then, before the pandemic was truly over, I was the court usher in the Newport Civil and Family Courts.
Well, there's a few different jobs.
I know, and so I was totally out of my comfort zone. But I thought it's time to go, and one of the staff on the admin floor there said, because you weren't, this isn't what you wanted to do as a career thing. So I said no, and one of the senior judge there, Her Honour Judge Mifflin, Helen Mifflin, was due to leave. I think I must have left before she did. Yes, I did. And last year, I think it was. So again, dates and times again. I'm all over the place. She had her kind of retiring from that post. She had planned a party in the Glass Hall. And her clerk, a lady called Linda, asked me to go on my lunch break into the market. And that's where I met with Gareth Sainty and said, they're looking for a karaoke DJ. And so he obviously knew where to find one. And so she had a nice kind of retirement bash, but knowing I'd sung at some events linked to staff members in the court. There was a birthday on one occasion, and there was another judge retiring with an event in Cardiff City Stadium, the football. And she said, Anthony, I don't want you singing. She said, no. I want to hear all the barristers, the lawyers and the solicitors and her fellow judges. She just wanted to see what they were like at singing.
I don't blame her. I mean,
I thought, well, how unkind. Maybe some of them are kind of don't sing very well, or as my old singing teacher used to say, if you weren't singing quite in tune, he used to call it democratic pitch, which is like, you might think you're singing a B flat, but you're entitled to your opinion. Or as Simon Cowell would say, pitchy. I don't
Yeah.
like some of these newfangled words.
No, not really.
Intonation is the correct word if you're singing in tune. And it's not easy, to sing in tune. But anyway, I thought this is a fascinating venue. And then I remember, months and months and months ago, I was strolling in there and Gareth spotted me. Well, as I say, I'm 6'7" and built like the proverbial,
It's not that easy to miss you.
No,
really, is it?
I know, and I was sitting down at the time. But he came over and said hello, and he's a very amenable guy. And I thought, I was thinking of of a venue to put on a concert here, and so that's where we started with this idea. So it's going to be a kind of what I call a mixed bag of repertoire, and we're calling it Maestro at the Market.
Maestro at the Market. That's got a ring to it, hasn't it?
Well, I love alliteration.
Yes.
So obviously, various people have called me Maestro, but it's a very flattering term. I can call other people Maestro or Maestra, just for the feminine. So I couldn't really think of anything that went with a glass hall. So you'll get a mix of Broadway and West End show tunes. I love those. Operatic arias, some Welsh numbers, and I also enjoy doing what we call soft rock and pop crossover, kind of classical crossover. Yeah. So that's when you get kind of operatically or classically trained singers veering off into that world. And to me, if it's a great tune and I like and enjoy singing it, then I'll do it. So we've got that. I'm still working on the program yet. So it's going to be on Saturday, the 27th of September, and that's 3 p.m. And you can book the tickets online on the Newport Market website. There's a little link on the What's On. And
how much are the tickets?
I think they're £15, but if you type in Radio 10...
Radio 10.
With a capital R for radio and capital T for 10, I think you get a 10% discount.
Oh, that's nice.
So, never look a gift horse in the mouth.
Absolutely.
So, kick off at 3, and I think it says till about 6, but I don't think I'll be singing till 6.
No, is there anyone else playing?
It's just me.
Just you? Wow.
But I'm used to doing that. It's down to stamina and technique, and I've done quite a lot of what we call cruise headlining.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
and in that instance, if you have a ship or a vessel or a liner that's got 2 dinner sittings, because you can't always sit everyone on one sitting. I used to do a lot of work for Saga Cruise Lines, and they could, because they had smaller vessels, and they were like beautiful country homes at sea, and you could get virtually everybody in the dining room. Some people don't like all the fuss of being waited on, and they go for alternative dining. Anyway, you'd have the 2 dinner sittings, you have a dinner show. So you did 2 shows of an evening that could be about 45, 50 minutes long, a little break in between, and then you do the same show again. So I'm quite used to doing 2 halves. You need a little bit of a break. There were some cruise lines that did 2 shows, and by the time I went out doing my de-greeting and dedicating and autographing CDs, I would see the next lot going in. So as a performer, you don't always like to be seen before you make your entrance, but it's quite a casual setup in that respect. So it was like, okay, by the time I hope I'm not still... Well, it'd be nice to keep signing CDs, and maybe the show will have to start late. But you didn't even have time for a cup of tea or anything. It was just straight in. But so you kind of value the little break you get. So, I've been doing that side of work along with the theatrical work as a kind of many parallels since about 2002. I think I worked with Fred Olsen and the Saga and various other cruise lines.
Where's your favourite place that you visited when you were cruising?
I think the Caribbean.
Any islands in particular?
There was one I went to twice, but it didn't go. It was on an island called Virgin Gorda, and it was called Savannah Bay. Ooh. And the sand was like talcum powder.
That sounds dead sexy.
And I went out of their season with a very famous Northern Irish stand-up comedian, Adrian Walsh, and I said, look, let's go to this beach. But in the peak season, when I was there the first time of 2 times, there was like a little brightly coloured open-sided bus that took you there because they knew that people wanted to go there. So this time, out of season, no bus, So we got a taxi, and he had to go through a little bit of a wood to get there, and there it was. The weather was okay, but you could tell he was out of season. And he had put his nose clips on and his earplugs, for swimming, because some people do that if they don't want to get... And he didn't know that I was kind of stood behind him, and he kind of just swimming, and then I just did a plunge. And I must have made like a tsunami or something, and off he went like a surfboard, boom. And but it was beautiful because there was nobody there, and it was just very
lovely,
very quiet. But I know there's a certain vibe in the Caribbean, and you don't have to worry too much about language barrier unless the locals on whichever island you're on don't understand a big Welsh bloke speaking. But yeah, it's and I had the.
Do you
pleasure,
miss those days?
Yes, but it's changed a lot, and the what they require now very often as a performer, you may not always fit the bill. So that's why I'm always changing repertoire and themes. But the point is, if I sang Happy Birthday now, they'd still think I was singing an operatic aria. It's very hard to kind of untrain yourself.
I know.
So hence the crossover is still going to sound.
Well, talking about crossovers, I don't know whether you watched the last night of the Proms this year. And I loved what they did with Bohemian Rhapsody. Did you?
That was amazing.
That was stupendous,
I didn't realise
wasn't it?
I didn't even read anything about the Proms. I didn't know who the soloist was going to be. There was a soprano whose name escapes me, and she was fantastic.
I don't know their names, but yes.
A great technique. She was a great singer, a great performer, a great actor. Even she joined in the Bohemian Rhapsody.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
I didn't know her name. She wasn't maybe as famous as other incumbents. You've had, Dame Kiri Takanua, Dame Gwyneth Jones, a very famous Welsh soprano. She dressed up as Britannia, but she quite cleverly used the shield because someone had put letter-set lyrics.
Yeah, I remember that now.
So she can read those, but little did she know there were cameras behind her. So you could see, I thought, well, just use a copy or put them on a music stand or a lectern. But maybe it was a bit too cumbersome, so she used the prop as a useful tool.
And why not?
And there's a lot of verses, and I do many open air and indoor proms, it's if you're doing the three verses and choruses, you're saying, hang on, which verse am I on now? And it's very oldie worldy English, and but it was such a mix to have, I forget their names now. Who's the guitarist on Queen?
Brian May.
And the drummer is
Roger Taylor.
With that gong at the end.
I
He
know.
was probably playing a myriad of instruments that we didn't see.
And the choir as well.
Yeah,
it was just amazing, wasn't it? I loved it.
Because that was the 50th of Bohemian Rhapsody, wasn't it?
Yes, 50 years.
Like maybe 20, 30 years.
I know.
Ago.
It's scary, isn't it?
Time flies.
Doesn't
But
it?
that is so nice that the Proms, it's... Overall, in classical music, the barriers shouldn't be there in the first place.
No.
And Monteverdi, let's say, an Italian Renaissance composer, is different to Puccini. However many hundred years later, that the music is different. But we're always pigeonholing.
Yeah.
And I remember many, many years ago, a lady who was the entertainment officer for a care home, which had a very large lounge that had a partition door that made it even bigger, put on an event, and she wanted the Proms. I said, great. She said, I got a string quartet. I said, that's fine, but I'll have to use the other soloist, maybe an accompanist, because trying to find sheet music for a string quartet is not easy. So they had their solos, and we had ours, and a couple of duets, and there's a tenor and a soprano. And so I sent her the list of repertoire. And there were some musical theatre songs in there. And she, why is that in there? This is the Proms. And I got a little bit uppity and a little bit kind of snooty, but in an opposite sense, that I was trying to show that you don't have to be snooty. And on the BBC's Proms website, the programmes are already decided in advance. They could change them, of course, but it had a great baritone from the Northeast, Sir Thomas Allen. And he had stuff by Gershwin and Cole Porter and, yes, operatic arias and maybe art songs. Could have been by a German composer like Schubert or Schumann or you name it. But the fact that these, what people might term as lighter music, was in there, and I thought it was a bit cruel, really. It was like, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. I copied the page or screenshot it or something just to emphasize this is the epitome of a classical concert or a concert with a classical bent that's slowly acknowledging that other music does exist and it's now becoming inclusive. And that's the epitome. And you're questioning that.
Yeah.
So she kind of backed off a little bit.
Yeah. If you go way back in time, though, the music that she's talking about was the pop music of its day, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
And so, it's we'll be looking back in the future. We'll be looking at today's music and calling it classical, I guess, because by then it will be aged enough, won't it?
It's very hard to denote the actual classical era. You could be talking, you're going back to 1700 and frozen to death,
Yeah.
and it could be Haydn, Mozart, Salieri, people around that era and into Beethoven. It's a generalized thing of classical or a classical version. But I suppose if it's a good tune, fine, but there are certain arias or opera songs that are technically quite difficult for someone to sing. I could find singing a pop song quite difficult.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you ever sing karaoke?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so come on, what's it?
Do you know the weirdest thing I try to do? And this is my point, exactly. I'm glad you've asked that question because going back to this Judge Mifflin, when I've seen her on the odd occasion, I don't know whether to say, hello, Your Honour, because I'm not sure if she can retain the title, even though she became the High Sheriff of Gwent.
Yeah.
And she finished her tenureship, I think, early this year. And I sang and competed at her awards ceremony. Yeah. But anyway, going back to when she retired and her full-time clerk, Linda, who'd sent me out to find this karaoke DJ, the judge didn't want me to sing. But I said, look, I'm going to sing something, but this is in honour of your clerk, because the clerk really is it's a partnership. Any judge, the clerk, is they can't do it without them.
Exactly.
So I was looking for the track of Hue and Cry, Never Stop Looking for Linda.
Oh, yes.
And I loved all that music. That was my kind of era, a bit of Nick Kershaw.
Yeah.
I like ABBA, which is a bit before. And this Hue and Cry. I don't follow particular artists or bands. I'm more down to an individual song.
Yeah, I think I am too, mostly.
I'd never sung this before. And it was very tricky because it was very kind of jazz, funk, soul.
It's a great track,
Never
isn't
stop
it?
looking for Linda, looking out for Linda.
It's a
never
fabulous
stop
song. I haven't heard that for such a long time.
And there's a lot of little riffs in there, which is kind of decorative, which you could get in classical music, but classical is a bit more specific. And in that sense, it would be very hard for someone to sing that just out in the street as you would a pop song. I kind of think maybe some folk songs would be the popular music of the day. I suppose opera and classical music over the years has found it very hard to shrug off this image of elitism. But at least when you're putting I see a little silhouette of a man, Scaramouche, Scaramouche, can you do the fandango? There's a tune in there. But obviously Freddie Mercury wasn't going to do what we call coloratura or fioritura, which is a very flowery or colourful technique. He did partner with Montserrat Caballé for Barcelona. And she could do all those runs and famous for singing high notes very quietly. Most opera singers find that very difficult, but she cornered the market with the pianissimi, a plural of piano singing, and she could just float them like that. I don't know, it's like gossamer, and she had a great control of her technique. But it doesn't really matter because you overall you've got a nice tune. Those are embellishments. They're little decoratives.
I just thought it was lovely that Freddie and Montserrat came together in that and made that, because that was such a surprising pop song, wasn't it?
And it's nothing new to have classical singers or
But
operatic
I've never
singers.
seen it done in that way, though. Really.
Oh, it was his campus Christmas.
Yeah, I thought
But
it
you
was
wouldn't
brilliant.
expect anything
No.
less from Freddie Mercury.
no.
And there he was, all suited and booted, with a bow tie. I thought he could have put a tailcoat on because she was in a flowing gown because it probably suited her physique. She was, and it was just amazing. And especially written with her in mind because he was a great fan of it. I somewhere in storage, I've got the album. It wasn't just that song. There were other
I didn't know
songs.
that. Yeah.
And one or two of them are kind of catchy. And she may have had her little bit of input. She's not a composer. He was a great songwriter, and he could play piano and sing pretty well. It's not, the thing is, he had his own very unique voice, and you don't take that away from anybody, but not as polished, say, as George Michael. Or even, is it Adam Lambert now? That Freddie could be a little bit raucous when he wanted to be, but he could sing quite softly like her, like Montserrat.
But he was more of a personality, wasn't he, than anything else?
It's like my old singing teacher I had quite a few singing teachers in my career, but the last one I had didn't actually sing. He couldn't sing. But it doesn't matter because I can't. If you're a soprano singing teacher, you're not going to make the same kind of noise as me. Or if you're another bass baritone like me, you're not going to sound like me. Your voice is like a fingerprint.
Unique, isn't it? Yes.
And anyway, so you're the one that's singing. It's not I'm trying to emulate and sound like you. But he said, from a theatrical point of view, if you're doing a role and you're supposed to be a bit of a nasty, or you've got a song that's about vengeance and a vendetta or something, that you have to put the colouring in.
Yes.
And he said, people will come up to you and say, oh, what a lovely voice. Well, you can't sing everything lovely. And his point was, if someone comes to you and says, oh, what a lovely voice, I could be a little bit rude. I might say, well, thank you very much for the compliment. Did you enjoy the singing? So it's the singing, not so much what kind of voice you have. What are you trying to communicate musically through your singing? You might say, what a beautiful Stradivarius violin you've got, but you could play it very badly. But that's not the instrument's fault. It's the player.
Yeah.
So it's how you're playing you. So for Freddie, I think it was that his voice was quite unique, and it's what he put into it, heart and soul.
Showman.
A consummate showman, and Elton John to a similar degree, with all the costumes.
Yeah, once or twice in a generation, you've got a proper showman or woman, haven't you? That's got that big personality, bigger than anybody else, and they definitely fitted that.
Oh, absolutely. It was, but in classical terms, nobody, I suppose, because there's a different kind of virtuosity that you can still hold an audience, and even Pavarotti, to me, just fantastic. And he said, I might not be the greatest actor, but in his face and also in his singing, that you're kind of transfixed. But that's taking something out of a theatrical environment, or an operatic environment, choosing the repertoire, but the music tells the story, so well. But you need a good storyteller, even musically, as I think it was Jesse Norman saying, you may not understand the words, but it's often said that the music is telling the story. A lot of the plots in opera are just ridiculous, and it's like you might take you half an hour to say I love you, we'll just get on with it, or someone gets stabbed in the back and it takes them 15 minutes to die because they're singing an aria about it. Like, the ambulance could have been there by then and saved them. But it's the suspension of disbelief that's in all elements of theatricality, but no, I think that was a great thing at the proms, and even with Bill, what's his name?
Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey.
And
he did something on the organ. I thought, this is kind of a bit irreverent, but it was...
Doesn't matter. It's just...
It was a breath of fresh air.
Yes, it was, yeah. And the last night of the proms, of course, is traditionally more light-hearted than the first ones anyway. So you expect a little bit of humour in it, don't you?
When they're interrupting with the hornpipe, and there's something if they're not quite in rhythm, or quiet moments and someone accidentally blows a kazoo or something.
Part of it, isn't it?
It's great, but it was a great concert, and rightly so. It because it's the epitome of collectively, it's representing what's gone before it in its season. It kind of has that right to overrun, and if the news has to start late, they don't just fade out and say, "Thank you, proms, you didn't get to Land of Hope and Glory, but you overran." They wait. There's a kind of deference to it.
Yes, there is. Yeah, but it's something that's very unique, isn't it? Really.
I remember when I had a contract out in Germany, and I was staying with a family in a kind of studio apartment underneath their house. And I forgot the name of the wife or the mother. She came down and says, "Oh, Anthony, we're watching Last Night of the Proms." I said, "Oh, really? Oh, you watched it?" "Yeah, we got it here on a lot of countries have their kind of reciprocal BBC channel, that their national broadcasting channel. And there's a lot of them will show it. And you look at the flags in where the promenaders are, or even in the boxes and the stalls.
It's popular all over the world, isn't it?
Yeah, and they just tie into it. And it doesn't really matter what the patriotism is about. It's just being patriotic. You say, well, just go and do your own one. Yeah. I find it difficult to... I've done a lot of these open-air ones on cruise liners, but if they're very British-centric... it's very hard to do it on an American liner because they wouldn't understand.
No, they don't quite get it.
I tend to do an open air show and call it, Anthony Al Fresco or something, because it's open air, or just a sail away party or something, and I don't tend to put the patriotic stuff in there. If I did, Rule Britannia, the Americans
wouldn't get it really, would they?
Well, what's that? It's but. For a lot of people that are into their music, it's a great thing to do. It's that kind of inclusivity. Yeah,
and it is something special, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and you're sharing it.
Yes. So let's talk about, you've brought a couple of your CDs in with you today.
Yes.
Just tell me about these. What's on them, and what's your favourite out of all that you sing?
I'm hopeless.
Apart from Looking for Linda, of course.
It's not on there. Never stop looking for Linda. I don't know where Linda is. I'll have to send her a link to this chat, this podcast.
Definitely, yeah.
No, that's not it. I think the closest... I'm really rubbish with what's your favourite because I'm maybe a bit greedy because I like it all.
Yeah, well, that's as it should be, of course.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then it's no good, is it?
I've got Well, I started off doing a disc with musical theatre on there. I've got stuff from Oklahoma, Fiddler on the Roof. I suppose my party piece, in a kind of comedic sense, would be If I Were a Rich Man.
Oh, it has to be, yeah.
And I did do at the Riverfront year before last.
I bet people love that.
No, it was last year. Last year was the 60th anniversary of the musical Fiddler on the Roof. So stuff from My Fair Lady, Sound of Music, bit of Cole Porter. I like Rodgers and Hammerstein. Not so keen on Rodgers and Hart. I think I prefer them. The lyrics must have affected the melody with Rodgers and Hammerstein. It's slightly more operatic in a way. Stuff from Les Miserables, and that's twofold. I can do something comedic like Master of the House, which is Monsieur Thénardier, the innkeeper, who's not a very nice chap. And another chap who's not so nice but misunderstood, only doing his job, but is Javert, the chief of police.
Oh,
we have the song called Stars.
Yes.
But I also managed, it's totally unrelated to musical theatre, but I crowbarred in on the end of that disc. For British audiences, I love the two Ronnies. So they had a Welsh miners medley, which they rehashed. So you've got...
They were so good, weren't
they? They get these Welsh tunes, which I'm amazed that they knew, even stuff like Sosban Fach and stuff like that. And, Men of Harlech, Megan's on the brandy. Granny smashed on shandy.
I remember that one now, you're singing it.
Raving mad with a randy handy man from Tonapandi. And it's like... The inner rhymes, that's Ronnie Barker for you.
I just remember that now. I can see them performing it now that you're singing it.
It was very clever because they redid it, because the first one had Ronnie Corbett dressed as Richard Burton and Ronnie Barker dressed as Elizabeth Taylor and a Welsh miners choir coming in coal dust. But then many years later they redid it, but they put the two Ronnies in the choir. Then they stepped forward.
Yeah, that's what I've seen, yeah.
And they're covered in coal dust, and they got the miners' helmets and the lamps and all that. That one I'm just calling it an enchanted evening with Anthony Stuart Lloyd, because it's, Some Enchanted Evening, which is... another one I do now and again. I often find that one of the hardest songs to sing, because you've got to keep that legato, this joined, the kind of keeping it smooth, but there's a lot of getting the phrasing right, and you think, oh, here comes that little bit now. It's like an athlete coming up to a hurdle, but vocally. I'm never going to be an athlete, but in that sense. But it's when you start a song, you kind of know, oh, here's that bit. It always gives me a bit of a problem there, and you kind of navigate it. The other CD is called Magnifico, which is like magnificent in Italian. And I got some Mozart and some Gershwin. I got plenty of nothing from his folk opera, Porgy and Bess. And there's stuff by Delibes and Beethoven. A lot of Mozart going on there. A bit of Wagner, Rossini. It's quite jolly in parts. Then some different stuff. A hymn. We've got Bread of Heaven. Actually, the two Ronnies started that one. Here you see two amateur performers. I am heaven. He
they
is
were so clever,
die in heaven. All we want to do is sing like anything. We got a bit of that going on. We've got Keep the Home Fires Burning. Ivan Novello. Written for World War I, of course. Mavanui. I think some of these are live performances. I might have a band with me on that one. And Men of Harlech, Megan's on the brandy again. Then a little bit into the pop genre with One Moment in Time, or Whitney Houston. Great, I think it's a great anthem, and it was, I think it was adopted as the official anthem for the Seoul Olympics, South Korea in 1988.
Yeah, written by Albert Hammond as well.
Oh, did he make organs? I don't know.
I love a Hammond organ.
You know more than me. Sometimes it's The Last Farewell, Roger Whittaker.
Oh, we love that one. We've just been singing that, haven't we, before we put the mics on.
Beautiful. World in Union, the World Rugby Cup, that's now been adopted. So it's a little, that one's got
good selection.
More classical and the crossover. Yeah. And
so are these available to buy?
No, they're just small batches that they get done. They get the liner notes.
So if somebody comes to see you at a show, would you have any for sale at a show?
Oh, yes. I did an event recently, a couple of nights ago, that was a fundraiser. Not only am I a compere, I'm also an auctioneer. And they had auctioning off various beautiful prizes, and there was raffle tickets. That was more tiring vocally, calling out numbers.
I bet, yeah.
Saying, right, any advance on 30? 35 are there, madam? No, anyone? Okay, what about 40? And I thought, I really need to... You kind of forget you have an instrument, and this thing of vocal hygiene. Looking after your voice. I'm not that fussy with, I don't eat chocolate, I don't eat dairy and this, that, and the other. Just drink plenty of rest, little warm-up. But that was, luckily I didn't have to sing so much.
Good.
But it was a fundraiser for a statue for Rhodri Morgan, who was the second First Minister. Or he might have been the first one to have that title. Alan Michael, I believe, had a different title before him. So Alan Michael was the first for the Assembly government, but that title... And I was doing some CDs after that, and I should have put 2 in as a prize for the raffle.
You should have, shouldn't you?
I thought, it's too late by then, but but some people wanted a CD, a little souvenir at the end. But it was that was a nice event to do. So I enjoy not only the theatrical side of it, but also the event stuff. I like meeting people, pressing the flesh.
I can tell you do, yeah.
Yeah, and some people shy away, and that's fine. I know we're all different, and I've seen people, guest entertainers on cruise liners, who just do their show, run away, and then they hide in their cabin, and all you see are their trays outside their cabin door in the corridor because they have room service. Oh. They don't want to be...
Kind of sad in a way, isn't
it? Some lines, like Seabourn, very high-end and very nice, but not too distant, shall we say. An understanding that you host tables. Say you're on for a week, maybe 2 nights you're a host a table. I'm pretty good at doing that because my background was in hotel catering before I went to music college. Right. But some people... I heard of a story of a singer that just couldn't deal with it, so they didn't book him again. Although it's not in the contract.
No.
It's an unwritten understanding.
Yeah.
So, but some people who do it, and they think, that's all you're getting from me, and I'm going to hide in the cabin now and ring for room service. Which, personally, I think, okay, you have a passenger status, although you're not a paying guest, but you're putting a lot of pressure on the room service staff who are there for the guest that's paid thousands, Yeah. And so, I'll host a table, I'll sit next to someone and,
Well, you love a chat, it's obvious.
Oh, it's just, they say you scratch a Welshman and he'll sing, but he'll also talk. There's probably 2.
Just before we go, let's have a recap of your show at the weekend then.
So we're at the Glass Hall above Newport Market, the indoor market, that's above. And you can get to it either entrance. There's a lift one end. And that's on Saturday, the 27th of September, 3 p.m. start, so not too late. Might finish about 5, although it says 6, but it depends. There is a bar on the same floor, so it might be 6. It could be
8 or 9, really, couldn't it?
Midnight before they're rolling out, and then rolling out the barrel. And, so the tickets are on the Newport Market website, on the What's On.
Right.
And you can get a 10% discount if you type in Radio 10 with a capital R and a capital T, I do believe. That's what Gareth sent me, so I'm just If it's wrong, blame him. That's what Gareth said.
Don't blame us.
No, I'm just as I say, a mix of Broadway, West End, and it's Maestro
at the market.
Yes,
Maestro at the market.
I'll be there.
Yes.
I'll be present. You'll
you
see me.
Will indeed. And I'll tell you what, when you played in the Kingsway Centre a few months back, which was part of the music trail, I noticed you had lots of people stopping to sing along with you. They loved what you were singing.
I'm all for it, joining in.
Yes, that's brilliant. Good. So obviously you do go down well with the crowds, I would say.
Yes.
It's well worth being there.
I'm all for audience participation. If they clap their hands, stamp their feet, it's
great.
We're not in kind of recital mode and just being very quiet and respectful. There's a time and a place for that,
Yeah.
But this is enjoying the great mix of music.
Yes.
In the market.
Listen, Anthony, it's been an absolute joy talking to you.
Thank you,
I
Kim.
love your music, and you're such great fun. So
great.
Have a great time on Saturday at the market, at the marvellous music in the Merry Market. No, that wasn't it, was it?
Well, they could be merry depending what they're drinking.
It will be merry, that's
Maestro
for sure.
in the market. There we go.
Maestro
Saturday,
in the
27th,
market.
3 p.m.
Be there or be square.
Absolutely.